Oh, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Jenni, and good morning to all our followers and everyone that contributes to us and supports us and helps us. Thank you, and good morning.
You're so good, Michael.
I don't know about that. I'm just a humble guy.
You're just a humble, good guy. How's that?
Yeah, I'm just.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, I'm thankful for everybody that's.
So, is it raining at your place?
No, it looks like it.
Man, it sure looks like it here, and I've got one sheep in labor, so.
Hey.
I'm going to have to run down to the barn after we're done, find out, hopefully everything's going all right.
Run down to the barn.
Run down to the barn and check out that old ewe. Well, so we're going to talk about dark money today.
Well,
what do you think?
I think it's necessary. I mean, you hate that it's so commonplace here in Oklahoma, but it's necessary because, Jenni, who else is going to talk about it? Obviously, no one else. You don't see all the big time news media people or organizations talking about it.
No, and that's a crazy thing. I have given so much of my stories to various people who are in the quote unquote news media here in Oklahoma. They won't even take the story. They won't even take it to research it to go anywhere. It's just nuts to me. So I wanted to point out on this. So it says down at the bottom here, dark money since Citizens United. Look at that. Look at those last two columns. So don't tell me that we're not having a problem with elections and dark money. I mean, because that's bogus. It's bogus.
Well, you don't have to tell me. I mean, I know there's issues in Edmond that I've witnessed over multiple campaigns over the last several years.
Yep. Very true. So let's dive into this and see what other influences there might be. So everybody remembers this. And here's our friend Carmen. She's a fake, phony, and false. I guess we better get her off, Michael.
Yeah.
We better quit working with her.
Yeah. The amount of money spent against Carmen, the papers, all of the different publications and mailers they sent out, everything they did. I mean, you want to talk about just a targeted assassination, and Jake too, but.
Oh yeah, Jake for sure. But most people don't know that one of the biggest organizations going after Carmen was the Oklahoma Medical Association, the OMA.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Seems kind of odd, wouldn't you think? You would think that there would be two issues that would be semi-unpolitical, and that would be healthcare and education. And now what are they? Absolutely 100% political, both of them. I always like this when this poor girl who ran against Randy Randleman, they called her a nut. That's just lovely. So, and most people who have seen my program remember the washing machine diagram that I did in the car on the way to Florida when I was supposed to be driving, but my husband had to the whole way. Poor Dave. That was not his favorite trip. But I mean, even if you don't know who these players are, even if you didn't go research them yourselves, look at where the arrows go. I mean, that's all you have to do. You just have to see that it's a round robin of arrows, and that represents money and influence. So
imagine that. Money and influence.
I try to tell people, and I tried to tell them the other night at Lion's Den, and they were really good about writing this stuff down. You know, if you call me and you say, hey, Jenny, I want to know about so-and-so, I'll go look them up for you. I don't care. If I've got time, I'll do it. But what I'm trying to get you to understand here with these couple of screenshots is that you can do it yourself. It's not that hard. The one over on the right is a picture of the Guardian. That is the website at the Oklahoma Ethics Commission. And the Guardian is the part where you find out about election influences and candidates and that kind of things that are just in Oklahoma. Okay. And you get on, you see this page, and you can just navigate to these, up in the top, it'll kind of tell you what to do. And here's the thing. I didn't have a set of instructions for this. I just got on and kind of messed with it until I could figure out what it was doing. Yeah. So don't tell me I don't know how to operate the system. Well, if you're smart enough to use the internet, you can probably figure it out. I do believe that. I believe in you. You can do this. So the one on the left side is the Federal Election Commission website. And the FEC is really easy to use. I mean, if you just go to the fec.gov and you click on, it'll say all campaign finance data, and you just click on that. It comes up with this little, you can see in the middle that there's a box, and you just type up the PAC or the candidate that you're looking for, and you put it in there and you click search, and it brings it all up. So it's not hard. And maybe one of these days we'll do a live, like a TED Talk. TED Talk, a Jenni Talk. A Jenni Talk on how you find out about the election influencers in your neighborhood. All right. So only 3 people are going to get that, and they're all over 50. That was back in the day when
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, Sesame Street. It was, who are the people in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
They had a little song. So there you go. All right.
Before Sesame Street became corrupted political machine.
Don't even get me started. I'm going to get all, because for those of you who are watching, be prepared for an epic rant at the end of this program. There will be an epic rant. I will try to avoid using salty language, but I'm not at this point. All bets are off. All right, so let's talk about campaign donations. So here's what we have to have people understand. The term dark money doesn't mean that they're using currency that's black. Doesn't mean anything, like that. What it means is dark money essentially means that you can't find out where the money is coming from. So if you donate to a candidate in Oklahoma, that candidate has to put the donations on his Oklahoma ethics election. I mean, their Oklahoma Ethics Commission website for his election, for his campaign. And you can look to see who's donating to him. But they found out that, well, and it just hit me how ridiculous this is. So in 2010, and that was back in the Tea Party days. And that was when doxing really began, and the left were calling out people right and left for donating things, and they would dox them and they'd put their addresses and their names out and that kind of thing. Well, there was a lawsuit called Citizens United that went all the way to the Supreme Court that basically says, and I'm just giving a broad brush here, it is a person's First Amendment right to be able to donate to an election without their name being attached to that donation. So I don't know. Michael, I think you've read the Constitution a couple of times, haven't you?
Yeah. You want me? I got a little Constitution handbook in my briefcase if you want me to go get it.
Yeah. So do you remember seeing anything about that in the First Amendment? Like freedom of speech is now suddenly freedom of donating without any repercussion.
Well,
do you remember anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we live in that world of interpretation. You can interpret that however you want to interpret that.
Oh, I guess I can.
I mean, that's the upside down clown world we live in now.
Where free speech is a donation.
No,
Here, Michael, I'm giving you money, but you can't tell can't tell anybody where you got it from.
Yeah, you know the world where guys think they're girls.
Yeah, that world. And girls think they're anyway. We could go on with that for a week.
Yeah. That Jenny, that's completely open to interpretation.
Of course it is, because the whole Constitution is. Yeah. Right. I mean, we don't use the Constitution really anymore. We just decide things on case law.
Yeah. Case law rules it all.
Correct. So dark money is essentially that. It's called dark because you can't figure out where it came from. And there are two ways that popped up. Particularly one that popped up after the Citizens United case basically gave this anti-constitutional, really stupid decision. And by the way, it was Republicans who went and asked for all of this stuff. Republicans. So you can have a 501c3. Everybody pretty much knows what a 501c3 is. If you donate to any charity and you take it off your taxes at the end of the year, that's a 501c3. A 501c4, however, is a very special class of nonprofits where it's called a social welfare organization. You have this organization, you put money into it, but then you can also donate to political causes. But there's a trick to that. You have 100% of your funds come in, but you can only use, this is what it says in the IRS filing, you can only use 40% of your total donations for anything political. Okay. So you can't just set up a 501c4 and then go, okay, well, I'm going to put $800 million in that and spend $800 million on somebody's election. Theoretically, by law, lawfully, you are not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next slide. All right. So here is the Oklahoma Ethics Commission website. And you can see on here that they have what the individual donations are and what PAC donations are. And it's all written down there. But here's the trick. So let's say there's a candidate, then individuals can only donate, I think, because I can't read that. It's too small for me. I think it's $3,500 a year. Isn't that it? Michael, do you remember? Yeah. So if I want to donate more than that, I'm just out of luck, right? Because the Ethics Commission says, well, that's all I can donate. I can't donate anymore. Oh, but then I can donate as much as I want to a PAC. Okay. So the PAC basically skirts the Oklahoma Ethics Commission rules for individual donors. Do you remember what we talked about with Carmen last time? We talked about McCourtney, Senator McCourtney. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember how many donations out of his whole campaign, just the percentage of donations that were individual donations out of people in his own district?
Yeah, I was like 10 or 11% or something. It's a pretty low number.
Huh. Wow. So basically, Greg McCourtney was elected by people outside of his district.
Yeah.
Because the people inside his district apparently didn't like him enough to give him money, because they didn't. Right?
Correct.
All right. So here is the biggest issue. This is a federal law, Section 30121.1, contributions and donations by foreign nationals. It is completely illegal. Now, let me just put this caveat up for those of you who are watching. Law doesn't really matter anymore unless somebody wants you politically persecuted. So, law, what does it really matter? It's in a book and we have it there and we can pat it and look at it. But meh. This is a federal law that says it's illegal for any foreign money to be present or given to or provided to any election, any in America, whether that's a federal election, a state election, a city county election, a town election. It doesn't matter what it is. There is no foreign money allowed in elections. So, Michael, I guess my questions for you are, so if you don't know where that money is coming from because the Supreme Court ruled, because apparently they don't know how to go back and check federal law, but they ruled that it was okay to donate to things without anybody's name attached to it.
Yeah.
So how do we know this isn't foreign money?
We're just going to trust that the politicians are going to do the right thing and be open and honest and have ethics and abide by the law that's written.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm struggling to find many of those today, I have to say. But I actually had, when I was doing this program in Canadian County for the OK2A, I did have a representative from that area tell me that that I was way off base here, that this was, anybody's First Amendment right to donate money in a dark way. And I said, what about the fact that it could be from a foreign national? Does that, is that an issue? That's, well, that's not going to happen. Or if it, I can't imagine that happening. So let's look at the next slide, because this is one of my favorites. So Leo DiCaprio, who is not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination, was at a dinner party and he runs into this Malaysian guy who basically is telling him how much he loves Obama and he's going to donate. And I think it was $1 billion to Obama. But the guy is a Malaysian national. I mean, he's not an American citizen, but he was going to donate this money. And to Leo DiCaprio's credit, he actually went to the FEC and told people that he had met this guy and this guy was saying that, because it did even tweak something with him that, hey, that's not right. This guy is not even an American citizen, and he's telling me at this dinner party he's going to donate $1 bazillion to Obama. Wait a minute, what's going on here? So that was one. This is just recently. If you'll look on here, this says March 2024, and this is from the United States Attorney's Office. So I didn't just pull this off of MSNBC or Snopes or something. This came from the U.S. Attorney General's office. Billionaire Chinese national pleads guilty to straw donor campaign contribution scheme and other frauds. What shall we think about that, do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can trust that being on the Attorney General's website, government. I mean, I don't see like a fact check down there from Snopes or somebody to say that is true.
Totally.
Not true.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. I should go back. I should go back and rethink that. So, I'm going to actually remove this for a second, and I'm going to share my screen because I want everybody to see this because it's just fascinating.
Well, and here's what's so crazy, Jenny, and you know this as well as anybody running for office multiple times and being mayor. And like with my school board campaign, even at these very local levels, the very farthest down, we don't have to necessarily submit that data directly into a website, but we do have to fill out pretty extensive paperwork that requires, name, address, occupation. I mean, it's like you spend hours of your time just filling out all that information, yet an entity or, some foreign whatever can just come in, donate, be completely anonymous outside of the scope of what I have to do. And it's just completely, it's the accountability is and transparency is a major problem.
You're starting to get ready to stamp on my rant here. So
all right, well, I apologize.
Yeah, so let's move on. So I want to point out the Frontier, which is, I have to say, it's pretty left-leaning. It's pretty left-leaning to me. It seems pretty left-leaning, but they are doing this series in conjunction with several other newspapers about the Chinese that are in Oklahoma and the marijuana industry.
Yeah.
And everybody knows I live in the boondocks, and I can't tell you the amount of trouble we've had. Some of my neighbors, I can't even tell you, this is such a huge problem. And people who live in the city, you deal with the storefronts. We deal with the grows out here, and it's not safe and it's not okay. And it was interesting when I read this article, and I did read the whole article, and I will tell you, it is very long, but they did a really amazing job. And this one, some of the subsequent ones were so left, I couldn't even get through the first paragraph. But this one was very well done, and it was it described very well what's going on in the marijuana industry here in Oklahoma, and the fact that there is Chinese organized crime here. And that, by the way, these people, and I think it'll say something on here, this happened in Kingfisher County where it made national headlines, 4 people died. And the reason why I bring that up is this. We are now number 1. Oklahoma, little old red state Bible Belt, Oklahoma, is now number 1 in the exportation of illegal marijuana.
Wow.
Number 1. Where in the hell is all that money going? You can't put it in a bank. You can't just deposit it someplace. It's getting laundered. How do you suppose, under any set of circumstances, you see some of these 501c4s pop up and they've got millions of dollars in them? How do we know they're not laundering money through 501c4s and other tax sheltered, political donor sheltered things? And these are Chinese nationalists. These aren't people that came to America and became naturalized Chinese Americans.
Yeah.
These are Chinese nationalists.
Yeah.
And I want people to sit on that and think about that for a minute, because that's not even funny. I mean, in the world of funny stuff, that ain't on the list.
Let me, since that article you had referenced Kingfisher, let me give you a little story. A real good friend of mine, he contacted me. This was years ago, like 2 years ago, several years ago. And he said that his son who is a real prominent doctor here, his best friend is a real big contractor here in Oklahoma City, electrical contractor. He was called out to a place out in Kingfisher. He said he'd go out to Kingfisher. He drove about 30, 40 minutes out into the country in the middle of nowhere. And he just said there was these massive, 20,000 square feet buildings, just all in a row. And just, they needed him to do some contract work out there. Well, I don't know the extent of what all that was, but when he got home, literally the FBI came to his house and wanted to know all the details of what he saw, who was there, they speak English, blah, blah, blah. Because there were people there that they were all Chinese. They were, they didn't speak English. They were, emaciated, the whole 9 yards. And, that was years ago that he told me that, like when it very first passed that they could come in and do all that stuff. And then on another unrelated story, we recently sold a vehicle and it was just bought pretty much sight unseen. And I did the transaction here in my office, and a guy came up to the office with cash, Chinese guy, didn't speak English in any capacity, just handed me a whole box of 20s, 50s, and 100s. And that was that. That was the craziest thing ever.
Well, if people think that Oklahoma is a red state, if people think we're in the Bible Belt, we were once, I think. I mean, and I don't know, maybe we were for a brilliant part of time between maybe 2010 and 2013. But since that point in time, and since, Representative Chris Kennedy worked together with some, dark money groups to get out the conservatives that were in the House, we've just seen everything go right down in a just a downward spiral as if it were being flushed. I mean, it's just awful.
You know what's so crazy is I saw a thing the other day where, we actually have more marijuana retail shops here in Oklahoma than the entire state of California.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable to think about that.
Well, and you got to think, so this was an initiative petition that was paid for by, I'm sure, Chinese money, because so many of these grows are Chinese and we're importing it back to China, so much of it. So I'm sure it was Chinese nationals that put in all the money to get that referendum, on the ballot and get people signing it and all of this kind of stuff. But, here's what could have happened. Our legislature could have said, ooh, I see the train coming down these tracks and we need to do something to put the brakes on this. And they could have created some laws that would have been, I mean, did you know that California has better marijuana laws than Oklahoma does?
No.
They could have even looked at some other state that had done this before us and gotten some stronger laws in place. But see, this all happened when I was mayor here. And it was the wild freaking West. And my attorney basically said, well, you pretty much have to let them be wherever they want to be because that's the way the law says.
Wow.
So every single legislator who has been in the legislature and who was in the legislature at that time is to fault for all of this, because this could have been done. So, I mean, the initiative petition couldn't have been stopped. I mean, it is what it is. But boy, they sure could have put the brakes on it with some laws, but they just didn't do it.
Well, there was probably, like you're showing here, there's probably a ton of foreign national money pouring in, to these campaigns at that time.
Well, and how do you prove that there isn't?
Yeah. I mean, you'd literally just have to go back to that ethics report and see how many regular Oklahomans are donating, and then how much was coming from a PAC or a, 501c4 or, whatever.
Right. Yeah. And we could do that. And I do intend to do that on on a couple of things, but I want to point out, so these are Oklahoma ethics rules. If you go to the Oklahoma Ethics Commission website and you look it up, you can actually pull up their rules and you can look at them. And I will say this for them. They do have this kind of nice summary at the end of them. And so I pulled the summary for a couple of them because I wanted to make a couple of points. Unlimited committees are prohibited from receiving contributions from foreign nationals, political party committees, candidate committees, limited committees, and unlimited committees that are a different type and have a different purpose. So there is a rule for this. There is. But again, what did we say? Rules and laws only matter to the people who are your political enemies.
Yeah.
So, and this one, the one down at the bottom where it says section summary, it just talks about the fact that all PACs should have officers. Part of the reason why these 501c4s put money into PACs that are FEC PACs is because they don't have to have any of that stuff. They can just get away with it and nobody calls them on it. So that further occludes, prevents the accountability for this money and these things. All right, and here's a really good, I really liked this slide. I was pretty happy with this one because I think it tells so much in one slide. Basically, these are PAC addresses associated with PAC names and political entities. So people who are political consultants, essentially. Well, if you look down that left side under addresses, they're all PO boxes. So how am I going to find out a person at a PO box? I mean, if I really want to find out something about the PAC, what am I going to do? Go to the PO box and just sit and wait? See if they show up? So a PO box is nothing. There's totally no accountability there, totally occluded responsibility. And then you can see all of the PACs who are associated with, one address associated with a whole bunch of different PACs, all run by CAMP, which is a political consulting entity. They all have the same treasurer or compliance officer.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with these other ones. These people you'll just see over and over and over again. They're the ones that are controlling our elections, these political consultants. You just see their names over and over and over again. And again, you look on the other side and, it's PO boxes and whatnot. Again, how do you find these people? I tried to find Dustin McIntyre. I can't find Dustin McIntyre. Here's an example of a PAC. I thought this was very interesting. So if you look back to the slide we had before, you can see that one of the PACs is Advance Oklahoma PAC at the top here. The very, very first one is Advance Oklahoma PAC. And here it is on CAMP's website. Like they're advertising this PAC or they've done some advertising for this PAC. So, and that's literally why it's up there. Which is just interesting. So who is CAMP? It's Campaign Advocacy Management Professionals. The man who runs that is Fount Holland. He was accused with several other people in 2016 when Superintendent Hoffmeister was running, or pre-Superintendent Hoffmeister, Joy Hoffmeister was running for the superintendency of Oklahoma. The OSDE, and there was some collusion between the PAC and her political campaign, which is a no-no. If you have a PAC, the PAC is supposed to do its own thing. It's not supposed to coordinate at all with the actual political campaign. And the reason is this: it's completely unethical. So basically you could say this: these people donate to your political campaign. And then you're like, you know what, though? I want to sit on that money that people are donating because I might be able to do something with it. So I'm just going to sit on it. So I'm going to tell the PAC what I need. Hey, PAC, I need some mailers. Would you do that mailing for me? And so they get this PAC to do these mailers for them. And then it doesn't have to come out of the political campaign. And that's how they coordinate. And that's how these candidates end up sitting on great big piles of money, which are called war chests. So there's not supposed to be any collusion. It's completely unethical. And I kind of threw in here because people don't understand. I mean, we talk about the swamp, or at least we did when Trump was elected, and he loved to talk about the swamp. We have our own Oklahoma swamp. I mean, we have these same people who are in office, they get out, they become some kind of political consultant, they then end up doing something else, they're then appointed to a position in government, they never get out, and it's just like a revolving door. Well, Fount Holland used to actually be the lobbyist for OCPA in Oklahoma, along with Dave Bond. Used to be a lobbyist for OCPA. So, I mean, it's something to think about, because the more that we know that these people exist, they just keep getting involved in different and other things, because that's how this works. I mean, that's how the world of politics works. It's like a revolving door. Once you're in, you don't get out. You just revolve around to something else. I thought this was really interesting too, because, you know, kind of my background as a scientist, I like to create tables and see things in positions. And so I took that Advance Oklahoma PAC, and really the person who runs the PAC is not supposed to be getting paid for other clients out of the PAC. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. So if somebody's running a candidate that's using a PAC, you don't use that same PAC yourself as the political consultant for your candidate. I mean, you just don't. I mean, you couldn't prove that it was collusion. You would have to have all kinds of paperwork to actually prove that. But it doesn't look good. So basically what I did is I ran down all of the people and all of the political campaign consultants who were involved in this particular PAC. Well, all of the clients in it were camp clients. And then you get down to the bottom and you see that camp is being paid out of the same PAC that all of his clients are in, or all of their clients are in. Just not a good look. So here's an example of what you're going to see. If you go to the Oklahoma Ethics Commission and you look up, you know, you actually go to the Oklahoma Ethics Commission, you look up a PAC, or you look up, you know, people who have been influencing Oklahoma elections. This is what you're going to find. It's an independent expenditure report. And you'll notice, look, 6608 Northwestern Avenue. Where is that? It's at a Pack and Ship on Western. Okay. I mean, it's just Dustin McIntyre, the same guy that I've never been able to find, is the compliance officer. A compliance officer is not a treasurer. A compliance officer actually makes sure that the Oklahoma ethics rules and regulations supposedly are being followed, but that's not a treasurer. A treasurer would tell you where the money's going, how much it's being manipulated. So these things don't even have treasurers. They just have compliance officers. And here you go. Here's an independent expenditure, direct mail for $2,700 and $2,733.39 for Richard Miller, that was paid to campaign advocacy management professionals out of this PAC where a bunch of camp clients were being run. All right. So there's something that since we're talking about election influencers, and by the way, since we know that the Oklahoma State Election Board likes to watch anything that we do that says election on it, we'll just say hi to them this morning. Hi, Oklahoma State Election Board. Hope y'all are doing great today. Good to see you. You can add this to my portfolio.
And just as a suggestion to them, when they have their meetings, I would like to personally see a little bit of open comment from the public, like when we attend, instead of them just going, dictating straight into executive session. I'd like them to somewhat be accountable to us and at least say, hey, we're going to open it up for public comment for 2 minutes if you have anything to say. It would be nice for participation.
Why? It's the Oklahoma State Election Board. Why?
Yeah.
Why would they do something like that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Why would they fire somebody off the board who is just trying to get them to follow the law? You would think that they would say, oh my gosh, I totally didn't realize that. Hey, she's brought us some good information. Let's go, work with her and get this fixed. But oh no, they just fire you for that kind of stuff. So to think that there's, there would be public comment or something, I just forget. Doesn't make much sense to me. But anyway, so let's talk about non-reporting election influencers. So I thought this was pretty interesting stuff. So I got involved in dark money when they drummed Jake Merrick out of his Senate seat over school choice. So the school choice lobby drummed Jake Merrick out of office because they didn't like the way he voted on a bill that would have used Oklahoma taxpayer dollars to go to private schools, which essentially makes them public schools. But then, why should we split hairs on that either? Everybody wants the money, and so they don't care where it's coming from or what's going on. So why should we even worry about that?
Yeah, just to define that lobby is they're pretty much a Christian conservative Republican lobby.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and that away.
No, and that's an excellent point, Michael, because as soon as they say they're Christian conservatives, boy, we should fall right in line because they're 100% right all the time. Good point. So, Rhonda Peterson called me one day and she said, hey, I got this Oklahomans Deserve Better flyer over here. That's Rhonda Peterson's hand. And she's taking a picture of it and sending it to me. And she said, they're actually going through my neighborhood, handing this out, and it's against Jake Merrick. Can you find out about these people? And I said, okay, sure. So I actually went and looked them up. And they had a website, but it was just a one pager. It didn't really go anywhere. It was just a one pager. They had a Facebook page and it had like 3 or 4 posts or something in it. And they were all these digital online ads. You saw at the beginning, Jake Merrick fake, Jake Merrick fake. They were the ones that were doing that. And so there was this Facebook profile on him. Now, everybody knows, I think, and if you don't, you should know how much I detest Facebook, since people are just getting hacked right and left on your stupid platform, and yet nobody knows how to get in touch with you, and you are just absent and don't care and let this happen. So I'm not a fan of Facebook. But that being said, if people advertise on Facebook, they have this accountability page on Facebook that you can go to. And if you want to look up ads that somebody's running and find out who's running them and how much money they've spent and that kind of stuff, you can actually do it, which I liked. I thought that was pretty good. Thank you, Sheila Terry. You're very sweet. Thank you. Share it, Sheila. Share it with your friends, please, please, please. So I got on this Facebook page to find out exactly where that was coming from. And I found out a whole bunch of things about it. They had spent something like, I think it was $12,000 or $15,000. And here's the bottom line. Oklahoma Ethics Commission says that if you want to go donate your time to a candidate or money to a candidate, whatever, you can do that up to $3,500. But after that, you have to report it. So let's say these people were just like, okay, well, I'm going to make some signs and I'm going to send it out for Jake Merrick, against Jake Merrick because I really don't like him. Okay, well, if that were the case, they could do that up to $3,500. But after that, they have to report to the Oklahoma Ethics Commission because they're influencing an election, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically. So these people spent, oh, I don't know, they ended up getting some kind of ungodly like 250,000 impressions on Facebook. And we know that's where most things happen, is on Facebook. And so here was their page, support real conservative values. Here was what they looked like on Facebook. There was no FEC. So when I went back and I looked, there was no FEC filing for them. There was no filing at the Oklahoma Ethics Commission. When I went and got all the information off of the Facebook page, the phone number went there was nobody there. So it wasn't even a working phone number. The ad, now here was the interesting thing though. There actually was an address associated with this. And you can see that down at the bottom there on that first one to the left. And I thought, that's odd. I remember seeing that address someplace. And so I kind of went back through my memory banks and I thought, oh gosh, that's right. So OCPA actually donated a lot of their very school choice, proponents, and they donated a lot of money against Jake Merrick. And it's all in, on the website. You can go and look it up and see exactly how I show, it was donated and that kind of thing. But when I was looking up and doing some research on OCPA, I kept seeing the same address over and over again. And it was for DeBee and Clark, or DeBee and Gilchrist. They've changed. And that same address was used on that Facebook filing. So they actually used this address. Now, I don't know if this was OCPA. I have no idea. I have no proof. All I can tell you is what I found was, and I took screenshots of it. So I didn't make it up. I mean, it's right there. This came right off of Facebook. And that was the address that was listed. And that address is listed for several of the organizations for OCPA. Again, I cannot say that it was OCPA that was doing this. All I can say is that the addresses match. So let's talk about something else too. Let's talk about all of the big money election influencers. And we have plenty of them in Oklahoma because we have oil and gas, and we have broadband, and we have cable. So we have a lot of ability to influence elections. So I got this text message was forwarded to me from a friend, and it was Ryan Walters' picture. And it basically says, JJ Francais, vote for him. He'll help me keep, all of this DEI stuff out of the classrooms. All right. Well, for you, those of you who do not know, JJ Francis ran against Dusty Devers. Dusty Devers ran, and I can't even remember what district it is. I'm sure it'll say something here someplace, but it's down in southeastern Oklahoma. And Dusty Devers was running against JJ Francis. Well, it was really interesting because one day I got people send me things all the time. And sometimes people send me things, and I don't know who they are. It came from a number I didn't know, but I got this Facebook link, and they said, go to Sooner Politics and look at this Facebook link. So I did. And somebody had gone to JJ Francis' main Facebook page, his personal Facebook page, and they had looked at it, and there were several posts about him having friends who were non-binary or otherwise not, male or female. And one of the posts was here, and I can't read it to you because I've read it before, but I can't read it to you right now. It basically just says, hey, I have a friend who's a male, but he identifies as a female, and he can't go into a girl's bathroom by as a man, and he has, all this stuff. And it was so, and you're just like, wait a minute. Why is he sending out text messages basically saying, vote for JJ Francis? He'll keep all this stuff out of Oklahoma classrooms, when he's got it all over his Facebook page. That was just a little odd to me. So then I got to looking into it a little bit more, and I found out that JJ France works for Hillary Communications. Hillary Communications is a broadband cable organization that's in the southeastern part of Oklahoma, stationed in Lawton, actually. And so that was kind of interesting. And then I started doing some more research on the Hillarys. Well, the Hillarys have spent, according to this this investigative piece that journalist did for Fox, Oklahoma Fox, they've spent well over $700,000 influencing election. The Hillarys have. And when I went back to look, and I don't know that I have it on here. Oh, I do. Okay. So it was interesting to me that Governor Stitt appointed Dustin Hillary to the state regents for higher education, but Dustin Hillary doesn't even have a bachelor's degree at all. So, okay. I don't know. Maybe the idea was to make sure that somebody who was on the state regents was outside. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a different point of view. It's completely, you don't want a person that has an education making decisions about education. You want to get kind of a different point of view so you can see all angles, Jenny.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. So it was
that's reasonable.
Yeah. And then Edward Hillary, who is his brother, I believe there are 4 siblings, 3 boys and a girl. And Edward Hillary was appointed by Governor Stitt to the, and I always get this wrong because I can't think of what it was, because I don't like it. It's like the education workforce, or it's not one of the committees, another education committee. He was appointed to that. And then you have Stitt actually coming out, and this came in a text message again, but this was on JJ France's Facebook page. So you can see at the top where I took the screenshot of. It's JJ France's Facebook page. It's Governor Stitt doing an ad for JJ France. You need to vote for him. He's great. Hey, that's awesome. Well, here's the thing. The Hillarys have donated a lot of money to Governor Stitt and also to Ryan Walters. Parents and Students First Oklahoma was a PAC that donated many, I think $100,000 to Ryan Walters for his campaign. And when you just basically go and look, the Hillarys come up frequently as, major donors to Parents and Students First, and to other things. So I guess the more money that you have, that, and that you donate, then the governor and the secretary, the superintendent for the OSD are willing to come out and, hawk for your candidates. Is that what that is?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Well, and why does this make any difference to those of you who are watching? Why does that make any difference? Oh, and actually, Whitney Mullica says the Hillarys have been on her radar for a long time. So, there are other people that realize that they donate to quite a bit of things, and not always Republican things. They do donate to a lot of Republican things, but also to Democrats as well. They're an equal opportunity donator. But the thing that I was going to say was, it's very, when you have the governor come out and hawk for a candidate, it's appeal to authority. If you've ever had, any kind of philosophy class, they'll tell you about how you can be manipulated by propaganda. And one of the ways is an appeal to authority. So you can have somebody come out, Ryan Walters. There are people that are willing to throw themselves in front of a bullet for Ryan Walters. Because he says all the right things, right? And they're, same thing for Governor Stitt, because he's a Republican. They can't really tell you exactly what he's done or whatever, but he's a Republican, and so is Ryan, and we're all behind him, right? That's appeal to authority. So you have big money then who can deal in appeal to authority and change people's votes by making them say, well, look here, Governor Stitt is voting for them. Ryan Walters is telling you to vote for them. Do you see how that influences an election?
Yeah. Mass formation psychosis.
Mass formation. That's excellent. That's why I love you.
Well,
You're awesome.
And just to throw my own anecdote in there, I mean, and I told you multiple times, and you know this also, I'd have people like when I ran for school board, because I spoke a certain way or because I said a certain thing. I mean, I'd have people that just would donate to me out of the blue, come up to me out of the blue, say, I'm behind you 100%. They didn't know anything about me. They didn't know a single thing about me. There's when you talk like that, when you say certain things, certain buzzwords, whatever, I mean, there's a certain type of stardom that comes with that just because, and it always bothered me. And I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, I could just be, saying whatever, and these people just support me 100%. I said, I could be the most evil, conniving, terrible person that just knows that I can say this stuff and they still support me. And it always bothered me so much, but I saw it firsthand. And that's all the way down at the very lowest level of, school board. I mean, just imagine as you go up the ladder with responsibility and stardom and money behind you, just the blind fellowship you have.
There is a song, and I can't remember who sings it now for some reason. I mean, I can see the guys, but I can't think of who it was. It's called The Cult of Personality.
Yeah.
And that's one of my very fair. I mean, I like the beat and it's syncopation and the drums are awesome. But I mean, if you listen to the words to that song, that's what Americans have become. That's what human beings have become. We just want to know you're in our cult of personality. We don't really give a crap about what you think. We don't really give a crap about what's actually going on beside that, behind that facade. We just love you because you're awesome. We like the way you look. We like what you say. We're such a bunch of useful idiots. It's no wonder the Marxists are winning because we're a bunch of useful idiots.
We've been programmed.
Oh, it's all programming. It's nothing but programming.
I will defend people. I always defend people. We don't know any better. I mean, that's just how the education system is, Jenny. I mean, no one's taught to think and no one's taught to question. We're literally, and you're studying that Prussian school, that Prussian system as it is. I mean, that's what we operate under. We're all, cogs in a wheel. We're made and designed to just be an employee, be a follower, listen, don't ask questions. I mean, that is how the American school system has been designed and infiltrated for probably 50 years or longer.
Yeah. And it's weird. You'll see that like we were watching a movie or I was watching a series this morning while I was walking on the treadmill. I've been watching it. And you see that kind of thing and you saw it. I mean, the crazy thing was you saw it in Hitler's Germany. 100% you saw the way that worked. You actually saw kids turning against their parents.
Yeah.
Because the school would train them and then the parents would say something and unbeknownst to them what's going on in their school and the kid would turn around. There were literally people sent to the ovens because of the fact that their kids turned them in.
Yeah. Well, we saw those
on that.
Yeah,
children turned them in.
Well, why? We saw those same circumstances around COVID. You'd hear about the cases where kids would, were encouraged to say, hey, my parents aren't doing this or that, or, whatever. But you know what it comes down to me, Jenny, and this is, yes, it's my background, but I put such an emphasis on this. If we taught our kids about money, about finance, about all those things all through school, they would have a completely different outlook and aspect on everything because they would understand how all this works. I mean, it all revolves around money, all this dark money. Money is in the presentation. Yeah. Money is what it's all about. And, it's so crazy. And it's it's just insane that we don't teach anyone about money, because once you know how money works and finances work, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Just because that's not how money is supposed to work.
Yeah. Well, I often think that people will do that once we, enlighten them about all these election issues. But then, I don't know. So let's talk about push polling. Push polling is this is just an evil. This is honestly, I think this is flat evil. Basically a push poll is, and I'll come back to the slide. I want to show you these are some that Rhonda Peterson collected from when Jake was running.
Yeah.
Jake said the COVID-19 pandemic was planned, opposed contact tracing for COVID-19 patients, and even basic preventative measures. Does knowing this make you more or less likely to vote for him? A strong education system is the backbone of Oklahoma, but Jake Merrick has stood in the way of our schools at every turn. He opposes increasing aftercare programs for school, a tax break for parent-teacher associations, and even education funding. Does knowing this make you more or less likely to vote for him? So, do you see how you're being manipulated by this push polling? And this one was completely disgusting. I mean, by far the most disgusting push poll I've ever seen. And this came on behalf of Rhonda Peterson in Edmond, who, by the way, won at the polls. She lost on absentee votes. She won at the polls. So for all of you who are out there going, oh, I need to donate to a candidate, I need to walk for a candidate. Well, everybody who walked and donated for her won her election.
Yeah.
What we have to do is fix this issue, that whatever it is that we're having with our absentee ballots.
Yep.
And primarily, I believe it was Nathan Dahm. He's not high on my list, but Nathan Dahm did run a bill that said that basically turned back the absentee voting. What am I trying to say? You couldn't absentee vote.
Yeah, you had to have a pretty specific reason that you couldn't make it to the poll.
If you literally were physically an invalid and couldn't make it to the poll, or you were an expatriate out of country and couldn't make it to the poll, you could turn in an absentee ballot. But this nonsense of everybody gets to turn in an absentee ballot has got to stop. And yet we have Republicans. I was talking to Steve Curry the other day, and Steve Curry, who's our national committee man, by the way, said, no, we just need to get more people to turn in absentee ballots. Okay, so now we have thousands and thousands of absentee ballots coming in, and now we have no idea which ones are frauds, because we're not even taking the time at the county election board to determine how many notaries, because there was a bill passed that said only one notary could notarize 20 absentee ballots. When I was at the Oklahoma County Election Board, you never knew, because you just were bringing those things in and out. Nobody was really piling them up to say, I can tell whether or not there's been 20 of them. I mean, so basically by adding more to the system, you're creating a bigger problem. What we need to do is deflate the system back to what it was originally, which was, if you're infirm and an invalid and you can't get out, or if you're in a nursing home and you can't get out, then you file an absentee ballot. If you're an expatriate overseas, or if you're stationed overseas, then you get to file one. Otherwise, you don't. But here's the push poll that came from Rhonda. Rhonda Peterson was removed from her position with the public school system for attempting to indoctrinate children, going around parents' backs and without their knowledge to push her own beliefs on children. Does knowing this make you more or less likely to vote for her?
Complete lie.
100% lie. There wasn't even a fraction of that was truth. Fraction. So basically, they libeled Rhonda Peterson. But can anybody be gotten for that? No, it doesn't matter. This is a push poll. This is a push poll. They're saying that because of the fact that they libeled her in a question and it was a questionnaire, it doesn't matter if they just made this up and pulled it out of their backsides. It doesn't matter. Nobody's at fault for that because it was just a questionnaire. What do you think about that, Michael?
Yeah. Well, and you know what they're going to do out of these push polls. I mean, it's literal, ad marketing 101. They're creating a test audience to see what really resonates. And then they're going to launch, according to the answers, they're going to launch a massive campaign later on that hits those major hot button issues according to those deals. I mean, but yeah, I mean,
so if you
answer
these push polls, you're a useful idiot for the evil people who are doing this to manipulate elections. And they're manipulating elections not through the votes or the ballots. These people, they're not even doing that. They're manipulating the elections because they know, I don't know, I'm going to say 80% of the people have no clue what's going on in their elections. And they'll go, well, I have to vote. I have to do my citizen's job. I have to go vote. They have no idea what they're voting for. They don't pay any attention to what they're voting for. They just show up at the polls and go, oh, look, I'll scratch this one in because I saw a sign out on the corner for him.
Planting seeds that are going to, be viable when it comes time to go vote.
Exactly. So they know that this works because they know that most people don't pay attention. So the only way to fix this problem is for everybody who's watching to share this video with everybody that you know. And if they don't want to watch an hour, that's fine. Just go tell them. Don't pay attention to this stuff. They're doing it. They're treating you like a useful idiot to manipulate this election. Don't play their game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's literal data mining 101.
So let's talk about text ads. So we brought this up. This is I wrote an article about this as well. Oklahoma State Chamber Associated Catalyst Oklahoma 501c4 sends text message to thank conservative Greg McCourtney with leadership race to be voted to 1224. So we're getting a new pro tem because our pro tem thankfully is finished. He cannot complete any more years in the Oklahoma Senate. He's stepping down, so the Senate is voting for their new leadership. So Greg McCourtney was up for leader, and doggone it, I kept getting these text messages. Conservative to his core, Oklahoma family values. So if you're going to buy into this, but you're not going to go check his voting record, then you're a useful idiot. Okay? If you're not going to have some kind of cynicism about this and go, I'm going to talk to somebody else or do some research or go to carmengreider.com where I can find more information about that, or rope2.org where I can find more information about that, then you're just a useful idiot. So this stuff comes out right before the vote because they wanted everybody to have that in their mind, and me contacting their senators because they wanted to make sure that these people, the Oklahoma Chamber, for instance, still can manipulate what's going on in the Oklahoma Senate.
Yeah.
So basically, what do you have to do here? What can you do? Stop being a useful idiot and make sure that the people that you're dealing with are not useful idiots either, and tell them where to go to find information. So, and really, there's my, oh, look, it says Jenni at rope2.org right there, doesn't it? Email me if you have a question, or ask somebody else to email me if you have a question, and I'll help you figure out how to go find this stuff, or Michael will, or whatever. But you've got to stop believing these people. It's a rigged system that drags you into it and then ends up giving you an elected leader that doesn't really represent you. They represent the special interests who put them in there.
Yeah.
So stop doing that. So I think, I think now, I hope you go back and look at this. Everybody who's on, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate that. If you do have any questions, please let me know. But I'm going to start my rant now, and I know it's a little late, and I hate to keep, the people, but if you have to get off, I get it. But here's the thing. So yesterday we went to our CPAs to file our to make sure we filed our taxes. And I'm going to say that once I first started doing all this dark money stuff, I didn't want to be a C4 or a C3 because I don't want people saying, well, you take dark money or you're going to do, but yet you're going to get everybody, for doing dark money, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, no big deal. We don't make any money. I mean, we had one nice donation from a very generous person this year that amounted to about $4,000, but I don't take a salary. Michael doesn't take any money. Nobody in this organization takes any money. We just pay expenses with it. And I didn't even think about, well, let's pay up a bunch of stuff so that we have zero in our account. So we went to go file our insurance, to file our taxes. So you're either a nonprofit or you're a corporation. That's what you are with the IRS. Okay. So of the $4,000 that we had in the bank, which we had been saving so that we could do some advertising and get people to watch the podcast, your IRS took nearly a quarter of that money. The feds took nearly a quarter, and then the state took 150. We lost $1,000 in taxes to the state, which is, I don't even care. They're spending money like drunken sailors. The feds are $1.7 trillion to extend the budget. Are you kidding me? They're just trying to crash the economy here. And yet they're taking this kind of money from us. From us. For $4,000, people. I'm so sick of this state. I'm so sick of this country. I'm so sick of all of it. We are absolutely under the biggest form of tyranny here. And if you don't think we are, you're so dead wrong. I mean, I have I don't know what happened to him, but he's gone. I have kids going to college. And the stuff that they're learning in college is absolutely outrageous. But when I say, well, you need to go to the provost and tell them what's going on. I can't because I won't graduate. They'll do something to keep. So basically, we are under threat of either losing our jobs, not graduating from college, not paying our taxes, so we're just in this constant state of fear over not doing something to make us behave. I mean, that's out. I mean, how do you not get how horrendous that actually is at this point? That it's simply nonsense. We're just at a point where, and people don't understand this. They figure that if they can watch their Netflix, if they can get onto their podcasts, if they can go to their Thunder games, everything's fine. It's not fine. It's not fine.
Let me chime in with something because we've talked about this before. I mentioned this a couple podcasts ago, Jenny.
Did I mention that I'm sick of all of this?
Yeah, we know. That's why you're the best freedom fighter out there. I mean, I want people to understand this. They came out and said here recently, we're adding $1 trillion in debt every 100 days.
Yep.
Now, just to think, to go back, it took us until 1982 to add $1 trillion in total. So now we're adding $1 trillion every 100 days. So what I want people to understand and realize is the world as we know it, our lives, our everyday lives operate only because we're adding $1 trillion every 100 days. I mean, if you don't understand that, that's not just the government itself, money just going in to fund the government. That's $1 trillion in just debt that the banking system that's completely.
You mean the Fed? We owe this money to private citizens, citizens.
Yeah,
to people like David Rockefeller.
Yeah, this is money that unless if they don't add this money into the system, into the stock market, into businesses, into the government, into subsidizing every single thing that we have, be, and do, it's over. And it's only escalating. It's only, it's getting out of control. So that $1 trillion every 100 days is going to turn into 50 days, is going to turn into 25, is going to turn into 10, into every day. Yep. So we don't live in a system now where there's any financial or fiscal responsibility in any capacity. No one can save. Everyone lives, and I'm just saying everyone just to say everyone, because basically it is everyone. If we only operate out of debt, our entire market, our entire stock market, the housing markets, I mean, all these markets, they operate 100% out of debt. If you don't have massive debt issued, you don't have a market. And at some point, it is going to turn around. At some point, that's only sustainable, to a certain percentage. And we know you hear these guys talking about the Great Reset and all that. It's all planned. It's all planned, Jenny. But yes, the money is the issue. We live in a 100% debt-based economy, and we cannot operate our daily lives, our good lives that we've created, only operate out of the larger aspect of this world being in 100% complete debt.
Yep. To individual people. It's not even our bank. That's what really gets me. And again, I'll say we've got a nice audience now. So listen to me. Listen. Get the book Killing Uncle Sam by Rodney Howard-Browne. Get the book Killing Uncle Sam. I left my copies downstairs today. And Operation Gladio, and I can't remember who wrote that one. It was the same guy who helped Rodney Howard-Browne write Killing Uncle Sam. But it basically tells you, these books tell you that we think we're in control of our own lives. We're not. We're pushed by the CIA, who works with the mafia, who runs all that money through the Vatican. And then you say stuff like this and people go, oh, she's got a tinfoil hat. She's just crazy. You know what? I'm not. People,
look at the documents.
I was trying to tell my sister this the other day. I was like, you need to read this book. She goes, well, that's just crazy.
Well, yeah.
I said, well, here's the thing. It's documented. Rodney Howard-Browne actually went to the archives, the National Archives, and sat there and dug all this stuff out. He's got all of that stuff right there. You can go to where he found it and look it up in the National Archives yourself. It's not like he just, had a fever dream and woke up and wrote it all down. It's true. And it's the weirdest thing. It's the cult of personality, we're America. We're better than that. No, not really.
Yeah. Well,
we have political prisoners, Michael.
Yeah, we're not savers. We're not independent. We're not sovereign like we used to be. We don't grow our own food. We don't, take care of ourselves. We live in a 100% society now that is complete consumption. And we're called consumers. We live because we consume. We don't produce. There's only two aspects to an economy. There's producers and there's consumers. We do not produce anything. We were the trailblazers. And part of this, to me, Jenny, comes down to we have a spiritual problem in this country. It's not a political problem. We have a spiritual problem. We were the most moral. We are the ones that ended slavery. We are the ones that gave equal rights to everyone and everything. We did that as a country, as America, and we've been completely corrupted by this have to instant gratification, have to have it society that's just been compounded like no one's business with social media on top of it. But yeah, we're, until we start, turning the tide to where we're more independent, we're not having to just at every second, go to the store, buy this, get this, that's the whole problem.
Well, and then the other problem is our education is crap.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's just absolute crap. You look at what they were learning even 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, are you kidding me? What we're learning is absolute junk. It's just not even anything that's I swear every time I look at some of the stuff that's being produced and written and today, and you just go right back to Mike Judge's Idiocracy and you go, yep, he was a prophet, Mike Judge. He was a prophet. But you can read Fahrenheit 451 for Pete's sakes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, Ray Bradbury. He nailed all of that. You can look at George Orwell in 1984.
Yeah, A Brave New World, Jenny.
Brave
you want to
New
talk
World.
about this whole medicated society, AI, robotic, replacement society? A Brave New World is that exact scenario.
No,
that's on its heels.
Without question. And yet we just simply don't question, and we take everything at face value. And this whole nonsense of there's an R by their name, they must believe what we believe, has got to stop.
Yeah.
It has to stop. We have got to start using some critical thinking skills here in everyday life and say, I want to know, how are you a Republican then? You tell me.
Yeah.
What makes you a Republican?
Yeah. Well, the government continues to grow, and part of that problem, like you hit with the appointments from the governor to with like Hillary. I mean, how many of these people do you actually need to have it? I mean, what kind of position is this that this guy has? Just, there's so much unaccountability. I mean, there's so many appointed positions, and let's look at our number one appointed position that's somewhat in the hot seat with our election secretary. I mean, there's another issue where you've got an appointed person completely outside the scope of any type of accountability who can pretty much say and do whatever. I mean,
what do you do to an appointed person?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah. And that's just another person that's in government, that grows government, who's going to have staff on top of that, who's going to have other things on top of that. I mean, it's out of control. But if we allow it, we allow all this. It comes down to us. If we don't take the reins back, and if we don't start making liberty and limiting government the number one issue, period, then we're only going to escalate.
And this is fair because, when I was raging at my poor husband about all of this tax crap last night, and I was on fire. On fire. Poor guy. I'm going to have to do something to make up for that. He took quite a bit of abuse last night from me. When he goes, well, but seriously, Jenny, what are we supposed to do? What is it that you're all upset about it. What are you going to do? You're just not going to pay those taxes? And I'm like, well, if we could get half of America to stand up and say, we're not paying your stinking taxes, or half of Oklahoma to say, I'm not paying my property taxes. How are you going to come get my property? If we would learn to say no to stuff, then they couldn't keep doing this. But we refuse to say no to even the simplest things. And I'll give you an example, and then we're going to have to sign off of here. I know. So the real ID. If you get a real ID, you're a useful idiot. Not to say that they don't own our data and they don't own us hook, line, and sinker, everything. My gosh, we have license plate readers where we had to have a legislator come out and say, well, you're not supposed to be using the license plate readers to be able to collect data on people. Oh, really? Oops, sorry. Don't get a real ID. Just say no. Just say, you know what? I'm going to keep getting an ID, and then don't carry an ID then. If they're going to finally take the basic ID away, which isn't even basic anymore, you still have to put your thumbprint on it like you're some kind of there's something wrong with you. Like you're a felon. You have to use a thumb. Who came up with that? That doesn't protect my safety at all. How does that help me? But they sure as heck have my thumbprint. I did get it. I caught it.
I was almost going to have to hit the beep button there.
I caught it.
Except
I warned about the language may be salty toward the end.
Yeah.
I get so frustrated with people, and I'll be frank, I'm 61 years old. I'm not going to the Capitol anymore. I'm not showing up over there. I did that for 15 years. I was the mayor of my own town. I've written bills that have gone nowhere. I've tried to work with legislators. I'm done with it all. I'm just simply done. I'm not doing it anymore. It doesn't help. But what I will do is I will say no to every freaking thing I can possibly say no to. And at some point, they're going to catch the 61-year-old and put her in prison like all the other political prisoners that we have. And at this point, I don't even really care. Maybe that's part of the beauty of aging. It's like, what are you going to do? Put an old lady in there? Fine. Okay, I'll sit there. I'll read. I mean, if we don't start saying, I mean, you can throw shoes at the TV. You can scream at your husband like I did last night. You can do whatever you want. But the fact is that doesn't help anything. What helps is saying no. What helps is paying attention to what the heck is going on around you and saying no. At some point, that's the only thing that's going to work.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to stroke out again.
You might need a little blood pressure machine right there next to you. You know what? This would be good for the podcast. We need a live feed. We need to hook you up to a monitor, have a little live feed meter over here on the side.
Jenni's blood pressure.
Jenni's blood pressure, and you can just see it going up and down as we go.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny. I mean, I live in far northeastern Oklahoma County, and in just next door over in Lincoln County, there are a bunch of people trying to put wind farms in, and they rely on the stupidity of people on this whole, I'm a useful idiot kind of deal. They go to them with one thing and blow a bunch of hot air up their skirts. And these people are like, oh, wow, $300,000. I'll take that. And then they don't realize what it's doing to their livestock, that they don't have any control over their land anymore, that these things, once they come up, you have to take them down. And it costs millions of dollars to do that. But hey, you got $300,000. That's what that's for, right? I mean, we've got to quit paying more attention to money than we do to, I don't know what it is. How do you bring back common sense when our schools are so horrible and most parents won't take their kids out? Most parents won't take their kids out. They're like, oh, but I can't do it myself. Okay. All righty. Well, you'll come home to somebody you have no idea who the hell that is. You will.
Well,
it'll
unfortunately,
happen.
we're gonna have to fall hard and crash and burn probably as a country, and then come out of the ashes. I mean,
but isn't that true? Nobody wants to do anything unless it's on their doorstep.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a boogeyman out there, but it's not my boogeyman. He's not on my doorstep.
Yeah, you got to get backed into a corner before you take action. But I think, Jenni, we've been conditioned that way because our lives, I mean, I'll admit it, our lives are easy. I mean, go outside the United States, go to a third world country. I mean, you want to see what real life is like? Yeah. Our lives are like living like a king in another country. Even the worst of us, it's pretty good. We're so spoiled, but that's what happens when you become decadent. Those things don't matter.
No, because it's just, what more can you consume? What more can you have? What more can you complain about? I don't have anything to complain about because my belly is full. My Netflix is on. What do I care? I can drive around, do whatever. So why am I going to contemplate anything? I can get on my social media, and that's another thing. You got parents out there who won't monitor that social media, and then but my kid thinks that they're a dog from, the moon of Saturn. Well, were you paying attention to what they were looking at?
Well, I've mentioned it before. I think it's worth the time for everyone to go look up the Calhoun experiments from the 1950s, 60s, where he was a psychologist or whatever his background was. He created a utopia, different societies in mice. And one was a basic utopia. They had all the food, all the water, safety, and they literally devolved into the type of society and they just they all just died. Like the women just groomed themselves. They quit having children.
Yeah.
The men, the male mice, like turned effeminate. And, you know, it's like unbelievable as to like how our society is today. But it was because of that decadence. They didn't have to fight, you know, to live and hunt and survive. And they just degraded in a very short amount of time in those experiments. They're well worth the time to go watch and look at some of those videos and that documentation.
Yeah. And you make a really great point. Well, everybody, thank you for watching. On Friday, we're going to have Janice Danforth on, and we're going to have so much more really awesome filth for you to see on Friday. Just like we were talking about push polls. I mean, they ask you questions and they change your opinion about things just because of the way they ask the question. And that's what they're doing. That's what these surveys are doing.
Yeah.
And if you don't think some of these questions, I mean, you need to watch, because we've pulled out the several of the surveys that they're being given. And I'm telling you, there are like 4 of them. It's not like this isn't as though you get one maybe once in a while. I mean, the people understand, psychiatrists, and a lot of this is being pushed by the American School Counselors Association. They're horrible. And, you know, they give, because they're up on a pedestal, you know, they're the American Psychological or Counselors Association. You know, we think all of these people are great. And yet, don't forget, Julianne Romanella told us that a lot of, you know, these nonprofits that we think are great, you know, nonprofits were created to change society. They were change agents.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got to quit thinking about things and people like that. We have to be cynical of everything at this point. I mean, except for Jesus, we've got to be cynical about everything. So we'll have Janice on and we'll go through some of those surveys. You definitely want to be on to watch that. And then next week we'll have, we've got, we're going to talk about open records requests and that kind of thing. And we're going to talk to a lady who is running for office, but she also happens to be a county assessor. And she has some great information. And I think people need to understand how property taxes work and what they do. Yeah. So please be watching next week. And if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. Go to rope2.org. When you're on the website, it comes up and it allows you to sign in. Make sure that you sign in and you'll be on our newsletter. And I try very hard to get one out every Monday. So, and it covers the videos that we talked about and also a few little things that we've learned since then. So anything else, Michael?
No, I think we hit it all. I mean, I'll just recap. You know, we don't need a political solution to a spiritual problem in this country. We need to take responsibility for ourselves, our families, our lives, and get out of the system as best we can.
And not believe in the system for everything.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. Thank you again. We'll see you on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you then.